Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. I got my $19 Bank Shop best bet as well as my all-access season pass at college hoops. There's also a link in the description with those premium plays. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games on Tuesday in college basketball. First up, we see Florida and Michigan. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN. It's part of the Jumpman Invitational, so it's a neutral site game in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, both of these teams, we've seen them struggle a bit in step-up games. We saw Florida lose to Virginia and Baylor. We've seen Michigan lose to Memphis, Texas Tech, Oregon, and Indiana. I will say, those games were pretty close for both of those teams. I mean, Florida lost to Virginia by 3 and Baylor by 4, while Michigan lost to Memphis by 4. Texas Tech was a blowout, but they lost in overtime against Oregon and lost by 3 to Indiana. But to me, I just trust this Florida defense more. I think both these offenses are very talented, very good offensive rebounding teams, pretty good shooting teams, but the defense is where I think the difference is in this game. Michigan doesn't force many turnovers. That's been an issue for Florida, is turning the ball over, but shouldn't be a problem in this game. Michigan ranked 126th in adjusted defensive efficiency. I think this is going to be a back-and-forth game offensively, and it comes down to who can make the most stops. I think that's Florida here. I think they have the better team, the better head coach as well at the neutral site. We're getting a pretty good price with Florida. I do think they are the better team, so I'm going to take the Florida Gators on the money line. Next up, we see Virginia and Memphis. Bear with me, I'm losing my voice a little bit here for Tuesday's card in college hoops, but this one's going to be an ESPN2 game. It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be a true home game for Memphis, which is notable because Virginia, this is their first true road game of the season. A 9-1 start to the year. They're playing well. We talked about some step-up wins, some solid wins against Florida. They beat Texas A&M, Syracuse. But it's never easy playing in your first true road game, especially in the middle of December, and especially against a tough team and a tough environment like Memphis. And the Tigers, they lost to Villanova and Ole Miss at the end of November into the beginning of this month. But now they're on a 3-game win streak, and they've got 3 wins over top 100 teams along the way. 2 of those are true road victories over VCU and Texas A&M. And in their last game against Clemson, I got to give them credit. Memphis was able to score 79 points and win that ball game despite shooting 15.4% from 3. They were 4 of 26 from the perimeter. David Jones was 1 of 5. Quinterly was 1 of 6. It was an off shooting night for Memphis, yet they still just scored under 80 points because they were 61% from 2-point range. They had 23 free throw attempts. They played really well. They had more offensive rebounds in that game and had a 15-6 turnover advantage. So they forced 15 turnovers, exactly what Penny Hardaway defenses are looking to do. This team is probably playing its best basketball of the season, which is bad news for Virginia if you're playing in your first true road game. Not going to be an easy matchup for them. I don't know if I trust this Virginia offense enough to keep up with Memphis. Memphis, a very fast-paced team. Virginia likes to slow things down. Who is going to win the tempo? If Memphis gets its style of game going, I don't think Virginia keeps up. I think they could be run out of the building, honestly, because Virginia, not a good offensive rebounding team, not a very good shooting team other than outside the perimeter. They're a pretty good 3-point shooting team, but they're 50.6% 2-point field goal percentage, is 170th in college basketball. Memphis forces you to take a lot of tough shots. I don't think Virginia keeps up here. I like Memphis in this game. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we see UNC Greensboro taking on High Point. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Should be a pretty competitive ball game between two teams that are off to great starts this year. Greensboro 8-2 this season, High Point 8-4, and one of the best covered teams in college basketball. We took them plus the points against Georgia on the morning show on Saturday, and it wasn't easy, but they covered the spread. They lost by 8 points. They were catching 9.5. So the offense did not have a great day for High Point, nowhere near what they're expecting. They were scoring about 89 points per game going into that game against Georgia. But I like High Point to bounce back here. After that loss, they played competitive against Georgia, especially defensively, which is something we haven't really seen from High Point this year. Their defense is ranked 290th in adjusted defensive efficiency. I think those numbers get better as the season goes on. They're forcing tough shots. They're a very good defensive rebounding team, and I think their defense is a solid day in this ball game. Even though Greensboro has a solid offense, I think High Point competes there. And for me, I think Greensboro's defense honestly has a lot of room for regression. It's ranked 172nd in adjusted defensive efficiency, but they don't force a lot of turnovers. They don't take care of the defensive glass. High Point should have a lot of offensive rebounds in this game. They take quite a few fouls. They don't defend the perimeter very well. Teams aren't shooting the best against Greensboro, but they're not really forcing a lot of tough shots. So High Point's offense should have a bounce-back day here, especially at home. I think they score plenty of points in this game, and I think at a reasonable price, I'm going to take one of the best cover teams in college basketball at home. Give me High Point. I'll lay the points. Next up, we see Mississippi Valley State taking on Tulsa. This one, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. You know, it may not be easy laying a big number with a team like Tulsa, but I think it makes sense in a game like this. Mississippi Valley State, we've talked about how they played such a tough schedule so far this year, and it's not just the true road games and the tough teams that they played. It's the fact that they've just been all over the country, back and forth, and I know they've had a good amount of days off now from their last game going into this one, but they were still on the West Coast against Gonzaga in their last game, and now they have to go back to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's not an easy spot here for Mississippi Valley State, and I do think they are the weakest team in Division I college basketball right now. They may be solid in conference play, but this is the worst offense in college hoops when you look at the efficiency numbers. They turn the ball over 25% of the time, which is the second most in college hoops. The second worst defensive rebounding team in college basketball, and their defense is ranked 352nd in adjusted defensive efficiency. Teams are only needing about 15 seconds per possession to get a shot up, against the Delta Devils. And Tulsa, very fast-paced offense themselves. That's why I like them in this game, because while they're not the most efficient offense and they're only 6-3 this year, they play really fast-paced on both ends of the court. So there should be a lot of possessions in this game, enough possessions to where Tulsa can, run away from this one and win this game in a blowout fashion. Tulsa, their offense, like I said, not the most efficient, but they do a really good job at getting to the free throw line. And that's something we saw Gonzaga do against Mississippi Valley in their last game. Gonzaga had 28 free throw attempts, but they missed 9 of those free throws. They were only 67.9% from the charity stripe. If they were able to make a couple more free throws for us, we would have been able to cover with Gonzaga. Tulsa should be able to get 28, 30, 35 free throws in this game because of that fast pace, because they naturally do a good job of getting to the free throw line. We should expect a very aggressive Mississippi Valley State defense that takes a ton of fouls. They should be, Tulsa should be in the bonus early in both the first and second half of this game. That should be enough for Tulsa to cover this number, in my opinion. And Tulsa's defense, very strong. It's going to be a really difficult day for the Delta Devils offensively. Tulsa forces a ton of turnovers, so fast break buckets and ones on the other end. I like Tulsa here big. Give me Tulsa. I'll lay the points. And the final game we're going to talk about for Tuesday's card in college basketball is going to be Charleston Southern and Loyola Chicago. This one 8 p.m. Eastern as well. It's going to be on ESPN+. Now, similar to the Tulsa game, I like Loyola Chicago, the big favorite in this ballgame. I'll lay the points. Loyola Chicago, it's been a rough couple of years now. Last season was a disappointing season for what was, one of the better programs last couple of years in mid-major basketball. And then, they were 10-21 overall. They had a losing record by far in conference play. And it hasn't been great this season. They're 6-5, but they lost most of their step-up games. They got blown out to Florida Atlantic and Creighton, lost to Tulsa on the road. They lost their last game to South Florida. But I think in this spot, at home against a far inferior opponent, this is a good spot for Loyola Chicago to pick up a nice feel-good blowout win. I think Charleston Southern, one of the weaker Division I teams right now. Fundamentally, that's the case. They turn the ball over way too much, not forcing many turnovers themselves, not a very good rebounding team. They take a ton of fouls. They're not a very good shooting team, and their defense is 339th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They don't force many tough shots. They're taking a lot of tough shots themselves. I just think there's a lot of inefficiencies with this team, and it's a good spot for Loyola Chicago. Good defensive rebounding team, an offense I think will get going as the season continues, and a pretty good defensive team. They're 22nd in the country in two-point field goal defense. The perimeter defense needs some work, but I think in a spot like this, I don't see Charleston Southern doing too much damage from the perimeter. They only get 28.6% of their points from the three-point line, so that's ranked 224th in terms of the most. So I like Loyola Chicago here. I'm going to lay the points with the Ramblers. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.